Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that bell to be notified every time I make a new video. Today we're going to be talking about attractions that have come and gone that I miss dearly. So I would love to hear what you guys miss from the parks that are no longer there. So if you can comment down below and let me know what you are missing, what changes you may like, you may not have liked. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Break this down by park and in chronological order for when it was closed. I think it's only fitting for us to start with Hollywood Studios, seeing as that park has probably changed the most in recent years. Now we're going to go back to 2014 to the closure of the Backlot Tour. Now the Backlot Tour was the first casualty in the many closures to make room for Toy Story Land and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So I mean, like, yeah, it closed, but we got Galaxy's Edge. Which if you haven't gone, go. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, it's incredible. The Backlot Tour opened in 1989. And to be fair, I don't really know how much it was updated since 1989 up until its closure. So I'm pretty sure that's probably why it was an easy decision to close it. However, it did bring back all the memories of whenever I was a kid going in as an adult. Just because I remember just feeling completely immersed in the movies, which was the whole purpose of Hollywood Studios. Then it was MGM. Now I loved everything about Hollywood Studios because I thought it was super cool being in the movies, being backstage in the movies. So your experience with the Backlot Tour was starting already with the queue itself. When you'd be kind of going down the winding path, you'd be walking by all these different movie props that were actually from specific movies that Disney acquired over time. They also show you how they do some special effects in the movies. Again, whether or not that was relevant to how they do things now, I'm not really sure. I've never been on a movie set, so it was just near and dear to my heart. I loved the Backlot Tour as a kid, and it's just one of those things that you just never wanted to see go. But again, I understand why it's gone. All right, so let's go forwards a year to 2015, the closure of the Streets of America. So again, another casualty to the Toy Story Land and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge construction. So Streets of America, again, I loved because it brought you into behind the scenes of movies. When you walked through the Streets of America, it would look like New York, it would look like LA. The LA part is actually still a little intact over by Muppet Vision, but it's nothing to what it used to be. Cool thing with the Streets of America is they would kind of show you how they would build a set if they couldn't do things on location. So if they couldn't go to New York, if they couldn't go to LA. And now we're about to get real. Now's the time my heartbreak really happens. So for those of you who know me, you know how obsessed I am with Christmas. So this should be no shock to anyone who knows me that this is the #1 on my list for Hollywood Studios. The Osborne Family's Spectacle of Dancing Lights. I actually got these ears in 2012, which was 8 years ago, and they still function. I have never changed the battery on these, and I use them every Christmas, so that's a little bit crazy. I actually got them during the Osborne lights on the Streets of America, so you know I'm holding on to these for life. So for those of you who never got the chance to see these lights in person, I highly recommend that you do a little YouTube search and find a video because they're phenomenal and they're breathtaking. So these lights started at Disney World in 1995, and again they ran up to 2015, technically 2016 because it was January 6th, but who's paying attention? So with the announcement that the Streets of America were going to come to an end, it was inevitable that so were the Osborne lights. I pray that they bring them back to the park some way or another. What I would give to flip that light switch and turn them on. I miss you, Osborne lights. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about from Hollywood Studios that I miss a lot is the Great Movie Ride. I know, it was extremely outdated. Trust me, I know. But that was like part of the fun with it for me. Like, the animatronics weren't nearly anywhere they should have been. The movies were not so new or relevant. I get why it's gone. Trust me. I miss hearing the Ready When You Are CD and then all the lights come on before you're about to head into the ride and Hooray for Hollywood comes on. I miss the Great Movie Ride, but I'm certainly not mad at what they did with it. All right, so now that we're done with Hollywood Studios, we're gonna take a quick little walk over to Epcot and get started there. There's only one place to start in Epcot, and that's at the OG attraction, the Journey into Imagination. So from 1983 to 1998, Journey into Imagination was never changed. So you'd be riding through the ride with the Dreamfinder, who also has one of the best songs of any Disney attraction ever, One Little Spark. Look it up. So the concept of this ride was you're following the Dreamfinder through the ride on his Dreamcatcher vehicle, and you're collecting different ideas and creating new ideas and new things with the thoughts from your imagination. Now, during this, he creates a figment of his imagination, which becomes Figment the dragon. Now, the ride went down for refurbishment in 1998 and reopened in 1999 as the Journey into Your Imagination. So the new attractions basis was that you were on a tour of the Imagination Institute and you were test subjects for a new invention called the Imagination Scanner. There was a lot of backlash with this attraction whenever it was unveiled. It only lasted 2 years. So it went from 1999 to 2001 and then closed again for another refurbishment. The big part of this uproar was that Figment was almost not even in it anymore. And that was a big issue for people because at one point, Figment was the only character that you could ever see in Epcot. Then 2002 rolls around to the now current version of the ride, which is now the Journey into Imagination with Figment. They obviously put that there so guests know that he came back. Now, even though the name is similar to the one that it started with, the ride is nowhere near similar. So needless to say, it's still not my favorite. I do miss the original attraction. I was obsessed with it as a kid. I made my sister probably ride it like 10 times in a day. Drove her absolutely crazy, but in my humble opinion, this guy deserves a lot more than that. We're heading to World Showcase. So for those of you who don't know, one, I'm Canadian, and two, I worked in the World Showcase in the Canada Pavilion in the merchandise shops. So this one hits very close to home.
We hope you enjoy our story tonight. Reflections of Earth.
You guessed it, we're talking about Illuminations. So Illuminations ran for 20 years. So it's no surprise that Epcot loyal goers and cast members alike were so hurt when this was going away. I mean, it was a 20-year-old fireworks show, so I understand that they wanted to revamp, especially because they had just finished the new fireworks show in Magic Kingdom. Now, I feel like while it affected a lot of cast members, I feel like it really affected the cast members that worked in the World Showcase the most, because essentially Illuminations almost defined their program. Like, I'm speaking for myself for sure that it definitely defined mine. I do know I have a lot of friends out in the UK that were just as hurt to see it go as I was. So it was just kind of like, it felt like part of us had kind of left the park. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how we felt. So because I worked in the merchandise shop, I got to hear Illuminations 5 nights out of 7 in a week. You know what? I'm gonna cue my favorite part. Okay, that's enough. If I keep going, we'll be here for another 7 minutes. I know what you're thinking. Well, what did they replace it with? They replaced Illuminations with an interim fireworks show called Epcot Forever. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it did the job for an interim kind of fireworks show. So Epcot Forever kind of brought an homage to all of the old Epcot attractions that have come and gone, and like the Parade of Nations. They even brought in One Little Spark. However, there was just something missing from it for me. I don't know if it was just I was maybe just still a bit bitter. Knowing there was something bigger coming gave me a little bit more hope. Now, the bigger thing that's coming is a fireworks show called Harmonious. Now, the new fireworks show that's going to be coming to Epcot is called Harmonious, and I have huge expectations for it. I think it's going to blow my mind. I've seen pictures of the firework barges. They're humongous. And I know that with how beautiful Illuminations was, to make this now a permanent fireworks show, they're going to work really hard to make this transition a little bit easier for the Illuminations lovers such as myself. So as I mentioned, I used to be a cast member in the Canada Pavilion, so those fellow Canadians know what's coming next. Off Kilter. Off Kilter was a Celtic rock band that was in the Canada Pavilion for years. So Off Kilter ran from 1997 until 2014. Now I loved hearing them play every day. I never got tired of it. In fact, their last set was actually my favorite set, not because it was about to end, but because they played Wild Night by Van Morrison, and that's one of my favorite songs of all time. Another classic that Off Kilter played that most people remember was the song Run, Run Away. If you've never seen Off Kilter, please go and watch one of their videos on YouTube. They're so good. I miss them so much. I looked forward to seeing them every time I came in as a guest, and then even more so after I became a cast member. I don't know, it's just sad, especially because they've never really had a permanent Canadian entertainment group after that. They got replaced with Lumberjacks that just like weren't that impressive. I mean, I've watched Lumberjack games on TV and they're way more intense than what they were doing. But then they had Alberta Bound. They weren't bad. They weren't my favorite. There were no Off Kilter, but they weren't bad. Don't get me wrong. Off Kilter, if you're watching this, I want to give a big shout out to Jamie, Scott, Mark, and Randy. You guys are awesome and I miss you dearly. So next on the docket, we're going to Magic Kingdom. If you know me, you know what's coming because I never stop talking about it. Spectromagic. So Spectromagic was a nighttime parade that actually had two different runs. So the first run was actually from 1991 to 1999, and then it came back from 2001 until 2010. Something about this parade that was more magical than any Disney parade that I have seen since. Mind you, people say Paint the Night was great. I never saw it because I didn't go to Disneyland when it was there, but from my experiences, Spectromagic is still number one. I'm going to talk specifically about three floats that have always stood out to me. You had Trumpeteers, you had these like whirly balls with kind of like ragdoll things that I guess were kind of creepy in retrospect, but I loved them as a kid. And of course, Mickey Mouse. I've never seen a more epic Mickey Mouse float. Ever. He was in a gold suit and had a massive gold cape that came all the way up, and it was all illuminated with lights. It was one of those things where you see it in front of you. I saw it first as a kid and I was blown away, but even as an adult, I was like, you can't get a better Mickey Mouse float. It was just, it hit you like a ton of bricks, and you're just like, this is so magical. I know that sounds super cheesy, but that's exactly how it made you feel. Another float that I always think about is Chip and Dale playing a grand piano. Now, at the time when I first saw this parade, I was a huge fan of Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, so like they were the bomb to me back then. But it was just really fun because they would be going back and forth on the piano, trying to push each other out of the way to have a better turn on the piano. But it was just a lot of fun to watch. Definitely one that stands out to me. The third float that stands out to me is a character that gets little to no attention. He's featured in Fantasmic, but that's it. That's kind of the only place you ever see him. And he is the ultimate villain that Disney has ever kind of put forward. He's a demon. And it's Chernabog. If you don't know who he is, he's this big, black, bat-like kind of creature. Huge wings. Wings kind of went in and out, and he was obviously all black, but he had red lights all over him, so it was so cool, and I was a huge fan of Fantasia as a kid. I could make a whole video on how much I love Spectromagic, so I'm probably gonna end it here because otherwise we'll be here all night. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me rant about my favorite things that are no longer there. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, and again, comment down below if there's anything that I may have missed, if you disagree with me or agree with me on things, or just anything that you are currently missing. Again, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified each time I make a new video. Have an awesome day.